Hey, this is Max. Welcome to Baldurs Gate. This is a Dungeons and Dragons RPG game on the computer, soon to be released with end of the month with PlayStation 5 and I believe Xbox as well. So we're looking at a lot of players that are using consoles going to be joining in on this game. I have been a Dungeons and Dragons player for about 30 years. I love the system, I love the world, the lore and everything about Dungeons and Dragons. So naturally I picked this game up and I am loving the game. This is one of the best iterations of Dungeons and Dragons game since all the ones I played from the beginning, and Larian Studios did a great job. What I'm going to do in this video is talk to you a little bit about character creation. If you're going to play the game as a new player that knows nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, let me kind of tell you what you need to do when you're doing character creation to make things a little bit better for yourself as you start and try the game out for the first time. Difficulty wise, this game relies on dice rolls, which are based on random number generator and luck, right? So I wouldn't necessarily start off with tactician. Larian actually make the combat somewhat complex. There are a lot of environmental things, so balance is a good start, or even explorer. Don't be shy to use a simpler difficulty just to learn the game. Assuming you use balanced and start the game, one of the first things you're going to have to deal with is character creation. We're going to jump right to that. I'm going to skip the cinematics. You get to watch that when you buy the game. Who are you? The big question, right? Assuming you're going to start off with a custom character, these are all NPC characters you can select as the starting character. I wouldn't do that for your first playthrough. It's better to interact with them as NPCs and learn their story and do their quests. So make a custom character. Things that you need to understand is, one of the things that people get bogged down on is picking a class. Since you don't know much about the game or Dungeons and Dragons, or even if you do know about Dungeons and Dragons, class is a complex issue. And nobody wants to pick a class, start playing, and realize I hate this class because the abilities, the things that I can do are not what I like. Well, Larian actually thought about this, and they introduced a character you can encounter very early in the game who joins your camp where you rest, and using 100 gold at a time you can change your class on as many times as you like during the game. So don't worry about the class. Pick a class just to get past character creation. For brand new guys that don't understand the game whatsoever, I would suggest you to start off with either a fighter, a paladin, a barbarian, a cleric, or a rogue. Simply because picking spells isn't as much of an issue here. You don't have much to start with. And the cleric, just pick a few spells that involves healing and one or two spells that involve attack, and you're all set. When it gets to wizard and stuff, there are all kinds of special spells. You really have to start reading those and understand them, how they work in the game to really effectively pick it. So these are more complex characters that require a little more thought. The monk's not bad either, but for a lot of players, they don't really understand how the monk works. And if you are a level 1 monk running into combat face first, you're probably going to get your face punched in and you'll die. So pick a class that wears armor. It just makes life a lot easier. Paladin's particularly good because you can also heal yourself, and trust me, you will need healing in this game. So that being out of the way, subclass stuff, again, when you respect your character in the with the new guy that joins the camp, his name is Weathers, and he's probably a lich, looks like some kind of powerful undead, he'll respect you. So you can change all this as well if you're not happy with it. So pick one that you think you like and just kind of roll with it. The background is kind of important only in the sense of skills. You want to understand these skills and know that I like to have sleight of hand. Sleight of hand is what you use to pick pockets and open locks and disarm traps. So if you have this ability, even if you're a paladin, you can unlock doors, unlock chests, disarm traps, and pick pockets. And not that a holy knight should be doing that, but at least you have the option. So the sleight of hand comes with charlatan, and it comes with urchin. Urchin also gets stealth. Charlatan also gets deception, which is a verbal thing to manipulate the truth. So useful skills. Guild Artisan gets persuasion and insight. Both are also useful skills. It really depends on the kind of character you want to play, but I always want to have the ability to have sleight of hand as my main character, just so simple lockpicking doesn't require me to go find the rogue in the party every time, or have a rogue tag along all the time just to open simple locks. So this is one of the ways I get around that. Ability scores, don't get bogged down on it. Just understand that until you reach the double scores where it's 18, like 2, 4, 10, okay? So starting at 10, you have no bonuses. You notice it's plus 0. Starting at 12, you will get bonuses of plus 1, and it goes up 1 every 2. And the max you can get is 20, but at the beginning of the game, you cannot get past 17, so it doesn't even matter. Also, at the beginning of the game, once you get past 10, is 2 ability points total. If you clear everything, you have 27 points, 29, 30 points to spread around. But no matter how much points you pump in, you cannot get past 17 anyway. So keep that in mind, that you cannot get past 17. You know, and it kind of gives you your spec here of how you would end up. So that's where you're pretty close to the recommended. Now, the recommended for Paladins is going to be Strength followed by Charisma, as you can see here. Although, even if Charisma is a little bit less and that's a little bit more, you know, it depends on what you want to do. Personally, I may do it like this. You don't really hurt your Charisma much, and you get more health, and you're going to be a tougher Paladin. Alright, so class abilities change together, subclass change together. So since you could respec your guy in indefinite number of times once you start playing, don't worry about this too much as you go in. What you're really going to worry about is race and look, right? You're going to edit your appearance, whichever race you go with. The race is important because you want to read all the racial features. Some of these features are really helpful in the game, particularly in certain classes that doesn't normally allow you to wear armor. So wizards, sorcerers, and monks do not start off with any ability to wear armor. Warlocks only get light armor. Rogues only get light armor. And it's the other classes that gets medium and heavy armor, like the cleric, the paladins, and stuff. Now, the bard also only gets light armor. Let's say you want to play a light armor or no armor class, but you actually want to wear armor. That'll be nice, right? This is where race comes in. Certain races allow you to wear light armor. You got to read the proficiency bonuses from that. Half-elf and human gives you light armor and shields. Githyanki gives you light and medium armor. Dwarves, the shield dwarf, gives you light and medium armor. So these are guys that can wear armor no matter what. And that's very useful when you're a wizard who normally wouldn't be allowed to wear armor. Now you can wear armor, use a battle axe, and cast spells. Boy, you just got a lot tougher than you look. So that's where that particular racial feature comes in really helpful. Another race that's kind of cool is the half-orc, because relentless endurance makes you harder to down. And you have that savage attack, which triples critical damage. Now, critical hit does happen quite often too. And when you get it, and if you're a class such as, for example, a rogue with additional damage from sneak attack, or a monk who gets open hand attacks with bonuses, when you have stuff like that, what will happen is critical damage can be really nice. So that's where the half-orc could be a nice option. But of course, the half-orc doesn't get any of the armor bonuses. So if you're a half-orc monk, you wouldn't be wearing any armor. Versus if you're a Githyanki monk, you can wear medium armor. So keep that in mind. So those are the things that you really have to look for. So the hardest part really isn't class, background, or abilities. Really what it is race. Everything about this game, for you to have a good experience, is to start off with a race with the abilities, considering particularly of the bonuses to armor and weapons, and go from there. That being considered, as a class that doesn't normally wear armor, I would say your best choices, if you don't like Githyanki or dwarves, because quite honestly they are. I mean, these guys are not attractive looking. Okay, so you got to stare at that all game, that mug of his. So let's say you really can't stand it and you don't want a shield dwarf. Okay, like this guy here, you just don't like the short, stocky look. I have friends that look like that actually. I mean, that's not a bad look. But anyway, if you don't like those two and you want to look more normal, your best bet might be the half-elf, because you get the humans' weapon and armor bonus, you get the elves' resistance, and if you pick a high elf, you even get the magic non-stop firing once around magic firebolt that you can use indefinitely. Or if you want to run further distance, pick the wood elf. 1.5 meters doesn't sound like much in the game, but it is a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily go pick this just for that. And then Drow, which gets just dancing. Ooh, I get to cast dancing lights. I'll pass. Doesn't seem that important to me. I think the high elf version is the best. So for light armor, half elf, human. For medium armor and light armor, Githyanki, dwarf. The other races here, Drow, as cool as they are, is probably one of the least interesting races with the special abilities. Elves actually trump them because they have sub-races with the cantrip. And they have the sub-race with the extra movement, both of which is still better than the Drow. Even though the Drow Ranger is probably what everybody's going to want to play if they know anything about Dungeons & Dragons lore or read any of the R.A. Salvatore books. So don't get bogged down on that. But if you like the look, nothing wrong with the Drow. But for me, because I wanted to try the caster classes like the Warlock, Wizard, and Sorcerer for survivability, I decided to go with the Githyanki. Yes, I had to make an ugly looking guy or gal, but you know what? For the bonuses, it was worth it. Dragonborn, Gnome, and the Tiefling isn't all that interesting to me. Half damage from fire is pretty good, and depending on the type of Tiefling, you may also get some other abilities that can be useful. But quite honestly, Tiefling doesn't appeal to me that much, despite their prominence in the game. The Halfling has finally, we'll talk about them last before we call it with this video. The Halfling has an interesting ability called Lucky. There's actually a feat later when you get to 4th level, also called Luck. And the Luck feat is quite useful. But being lucky is very useful because in this game, rolling ones happen a lot. And when you roll 1, that's a critical failure. So the fact that you can re-roll any one you roll is a big deal. So that's actually one of the coolest things about the Halfling. I almost want to play a Halfling just so I can have that and have the advantage on stealth checks. But again, without the armor bonuses, a Halfling Rogue would make sense, but not much else. A Halfling Monk wouldn't do as well, in my opinion, because you lack the movement range to get into physical combat. A Rogue can use a bow, so you can at least use long-range sneak attack. A Monk can also use a crossbow or bow, but they're just not that effective with it, and you don't start off with that either. So simple weapons will have hand crossbow or light crossbow in there, and short bow potentially. So you can still use a bow, but you're a monk. I mean, your main attacks come from your hand attacks. So a Halfling monk, even with the lucky effect, just isn't as worth it. Whereas most likely for the monk, I would still go with Githyanki or the half-orc. All right, so that's basically what you need to think about when you're coming into the Dungeons & Dragons game. Pick the race you like to fit the class that you're going to try. And don't worry about the rest. Quite honestly, class, abilities, everything can be reset. Race, I have not seen you can reset, so that you are stuck with that. That's why picking the race is important. And don't rush to proceed, because you do want to make sure you look good. I mean, you're going to be staring at this mug for the entire 100 hours or so of the game that they expect you to play. So I got to get to like this face. If I hate looking at it, that's not going to make a very fun game. So most of your time should be spent just deciding which race you like the racial abilities, and then making the guy look the way you want. After that, pick a class you think you could start off not dying in, and off you go, and rename him, or all your characters will be named Tav. All right, so that's character creation. I'm gonna actually on the next video show you my character I am playing, which is a Githyanki, and I'll explain again why the Githyanki sorcerer or warlock or wizard can be quite fun to play. I hope this is helpful information to you if you're starting this game for the first time. And if you like the video, leave a like and ask questions. I mean, I do know the lore, I do know the game, so I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have about Dungeons and Dragons if you're not familiar with the setting. And also Faerun, which is the world setting of Forgotten Realms. Baldurs Gate is just a city in Faerun. So that's where the name Baldurs Gate comes from. So feel free to ask questions. If you want to see more videos and would like to get notified when I put them up, subscribe, hit the bell, and you get them when I put new videos up. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.